You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J Loureiro.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. This is me, Sara, and today I have one of my lovely clients with me, Lois Spence. She's going to ask all of her burning questions, and hopefully they can help you as well. So, Lois, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you. I am a therapist, and I'm also a midlife woman who kind of went through a bit of a reinvention in her 50s, went back to school, got my master's, and I have a private practice as a therapist, but I'm also expanding into the coaching field, and I am coaching midlife women as they transition into the empty nest, kind of rediscovering joy and purpose in this new phase. So that's me.
Yes, and I love this niche for you. It's been such a joy to have you as a client as well. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I love it. It's why it's so it has been so great to have this level of support going through something like this, because it is kind of a scary position to be in, stepping into something unknown, and having the support and the expertise is amazing.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, and I see your cat like rolling around in the couch.
Okay.
That is so sweet.
I've got my dog there.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, all the comforts.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, ask away. What are your questions that you wanted to jump onto this podcast about?
Yes. So I know you've worked with a lot of women, and it seems to be a relatively wide range of ages. And I am curious, with that cross-section that you have worked with, what do you think separates the women that thrive versus the women that get stuck? And how do you kind of help get them through the stuck?
Ooh, this is a really good one. I get a lot of women asking me what is going to be the difference between someone who makes it in my programs and someone who doesn't, or someone who makes it as a coach and someone who doesn't, right? I think it's and I what I love about the question too is a lot of people who ask it are usually very driven people who want to prepare themselves and really answer the questions for themselves. Do I have what it takes? And so there's always two really big things that I see as differentiators with people who are going to make it. One of them is attitude. And so that's not something that you would generally think, but having a positive attitude, maintaining a positive attitude is just so important. The minute that you're like, nothing is working, I tried everything. And every time that you try anything, if you're always just like, well, it didn't work, what ends up happening is in entrepreneurship, they're like basically approximately 95% of your audience is never going to buy from you. So that means that 95% of the time you're going to be experiencing no's. That's a lot of no's to experience, right? The whole trick of entrepreneurship is to get to your 5% of yeses. And a lot of people can't stand that amount of rejection. And so what they'll do is they'll continue to tell themselves, okay, well, this didn't work, and this didn't work, and this didn't work, and this didn't work. And unfortunately, what happens is once you start to get to so many of these no's, and once you start to really believe in your head that nothing is working, you're going to start to look for more evidence that nothing works. And then it's a spiral from there. So that's one of the biggest things that I see is that for some reason, for the women who are like totally killing it, even if something doesn't work, so I could have two clients who have the exact same situation in their business. And one of them could be like, nothing was working and nothing continues to work. And the other one could be like, well, that didn't work, but I can see why it could work in the future. Or I can see, this happening. I feel like I'm closer. The person who says that is so much more likely to get a client like within the next week, I would say. And then another really big thing that I've seen is obviously like you have to put in the effort, right? You have to be putting in the time, you have to be putting in the work. There's some people who say, like, yeah, I have 10 hours a week to focus on this. And then when we actually go and look at their focus hours, a lot of them are finding really big key resistances and like their mindset, or there's other hurdles that they don't really talk to us about. And so those are like the two biggest things. We can get into like personalities and things like that, but I think that all of that is a lot more specific to an individual. But I would say like overall, hands down, if anyone ever asked me that question, those are usually the top two things that I say.
Okay. That's great. That's so well answered. And I think one of the things that I have had a bit of a mindset shift with working with you is your emphasis that rejection is data. Like, let's just look at this as data and we'll use that data, and how cool that we get that information and we get to move forward and make a different decision based on that data. So that tends for me because there's definitely rejection that's happening. For me, that's really helped reframe it from something that's personal to, hey, this is just information that we can actually use. So I love your answer though. Attitude is, yeah, sometimes it's just like showing up every day, just doing it every single day.
Yeah. And what's really crazy for me as well personally about being an entrepreneur is the minute that I can normalize my experience, it no longer feels like a failure. So let's say, for example, if I am just like, oh my goodness, I didn't get 5 clients this month, and I feel like a total failure for it. If I know that other successful people, or if I know that the average person or the average entrepreneur is not going to get the 5 clients that week, and if I know that that was something that was probably something that I was over wishful with, completely changes the game for me. All I need to know is this normal or is this not normal? If I know it's normal, it's like a breath of fresh air. It doesn't matter what you tell me, but if I know that that's a normal human experience, I'm immediately like calmed down about it. And then I can start to understand with the logical and rational mind, okay, so it's normal to get rejected 95 times, right? So if it's normal, then okay, great. Then it gives me more motivation to go after the 5.
Right. Right. And I think that is one of the really critical things within the group, within the container, is that we are all sharing places that are not going well. And it does normalize it and makes you feel less alone in some of these bigger things that are happening. Yeah. Sara, if you could go back to the beginning of your journey with building this business, which you're so successful, but if you could go back to Sara doing this in the beginning, what would you tell her, or what would you have her do differently? Although I hate saying people should have done things differently, because we learn from the mistakes we make. What would you want her to know?
Ooh, okay. All right, Lois. There's a lot that I would want Sara, 7 to 10 years ago to know about business. I feel like I could have like 2 podcast episodes about this, but if I could like generalize a little bit, this is something that I was thinking about a few days ago, actually, is that like the parts of you that you know to be true to yourself are actually the parts of you that other people want to see. And so I think a lot of the times we try to mask those aspects of ourselves because we're just like, no, well, I have to look like so and so. So and so is, really successful. And if I look like so and so, then I'm going to be successful too. And I think that it's our exact unique abilities are the things that make us most successful, because they make us the most relatable to the people who we actually do want to work with. Yeah. And I think that has been a very profound realization for me, is if I just kind of stuck to my guns about a lot more of those things, I feel like things would have been a little bit easier for me. But of course, you have to learn, right, for yourself.
Yeah.
Another thing that I probably would have done in the beginning, if like knowing what I know now, is I probably would have stuck to higher ticket price points, and been more confident in it. And I think one of the reasons why I didn't do that from the get-go is because I had this money mentality around like, well, no one can afford that. No one's going to pay for that. And I was also surrounded by the wrong people. Whereas I was surrounded by people who would be like, oh, $50 for a yoga session, that seems like a lot of money, right? And so now I have clients and I serve clients who are charging way more than I ever thought to charge when I was just starting out. And they're just killing it in the online space. And it really is a testament to me of, okay, yes, you can have this really great thriving practice, but it also needs to come from within.
Yeah.
And so those would be like two of the biggest things. And then I think a third thing would have been, I tried to do so many different things at once. When I was starting out, I wanted to do a lower ticket offer and a group program and a one-to-one program. And then I had 3 different, tiers of my one-to-one program. And so I was doing all of these different things. And if I had just stuck to one thing, I probably would have been able to scale a lot quicker. But I guess that's also the nature of who I am. Like I just wanted to experiment with a lot of things. And luckily I had time to experiment with them. But yeah, that definitely was not something that was profitable or just really smart long term.
Okay. That's great. Those 3 answers are so, that's so relatable that I totally feel that the idea of authenticity in the coaching space, I think is critical, but also a really hard space to come to because it does take getting really, 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 really real with yourself and going deep and really looking at what you're still hiding, which is hard. That's a hard space to come to. But the other thing I want to talk to you about when you're talking about the money and having some issues around money mindset, I am definitely finding that a lot of women do have a certain mindset around money, a very minimal mindset around money. Um, what what are your feelings on what we can remove in order for women to be able to step into that in a way that is more empowered? Like that is not something that men experience. I don't think like women do. But I think as women, we're kind of socialized to give away a lot of ourselves. And it seems to kind of align with that's kind of limited money mindset. So when it comes to high ticket offers, what is your advice around shifting that to really demand what you're worth? Or maybe it's believe in what you're worth and then demand that.
Ooh. So is it a question more towards like you as a coach, or how do we, convince other women that they're valuable enough to pay high ticket?
Oh, I didn't think about that flip side of it. I think both of it. I was thinking more with your experience. What kind of shifts did you have to make? What did you have to remove from your sense of self in order to be able to step into that in a really empowered way and be like, no, this is what this costs. And to feel like you were aligned with that.
Okay. Oof, this is a really good one. Let me see. I have some immediate reactions or like answers. But I'm going to see after the immediate ones if I can go a little bit deeper here with you as well. So, okay. In order for me to really charge more and get aligned with that, I really needed to see beyond my social circle. And I think that was one of the biggest things. I really needed to see beyond my social circle. I needed to see beyond the potential of everyone else that was around me, because I kind of relate back to, I was a master's degree scholarship type of student, and I invest in myself, and I really looked up to my own human potential. I've always really valued and really been passionate about full potential. And so I was just like, you know what, if there are people like me, there need to be more people like me, right? So it's not just about charging what you're worth. It's also about looking for people who feel the same way as you. And I think that's one of the most important parts of the high ticket community, or like high ticket and high caliber, isn't necessarily that you're just going to, charge more money. It's also, you need to find someone who has that desire to change their life that's just as passionate as you are. It doesn't necessarily mean that person has more money. It just means that person has that desire, because I've seen that desire in people who are, barely making any money every single year, but they want to do something better for themselves and they end up doing something better for themselves because it's that desire, right? So I really had to realign myself in terms of my social circles, in terms of like what I was listening to, especially. That's a huge one, actually. What I was listening to on a daily basis, like my parents used to listen to the news in the mornings, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, no news, no opening up the news, like right when I open up my computer, none of that. Instead, it's going to be, really high vibe podcast episodes. It's going to be, audiobooks when I go for walks. Like that is what I'm going to choose to consume on a daily basis because I'm going to choose to be in an energetic sphere of people who believe in themselves and in people who believe in a growth mindset. And so as you can perform more that way, and as you can get yourself realigned to that and just speak to that and speak to that person, that's when I noticed the massive shift for me. And it's interesting because I think that I used to think that high ticket clients were, okay, well, we're just going to target the zip codes, the highest, performing or the zip codes that have like the most money. Let's say, for example, in the US, like that's something that you can do in Facebook ads. But when I started to understand that it isn't about zip codes, it isn't about how much someone makes per year, it's really more about their desire to do something different. That's when I kind of just started realigning what was also inside of me and just like, because I also had that desire, I also really believed in that human potential for other people. I needed to kind of circumvent and really make sure that all of my marketing was also tailored towards that desire that was also in me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It makes total sense. It gives me chills.
Good.
Because when you as a coach recognize that within yourself, then you're able to recognize that in other people. And then when working together with these people, that alignment is what makes magic happen, right? So
Beautiful.
that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. And if I could offer one more thing with that is I think a lot of people are like, well, how can I convince this woman that she's worth it? And I think you can help her to strive to her greatness and you can use that in your content. And you can use that content in terms of aligning. But I think one of the best things that you can also do for yourself and for your business is say, if she's not ready to level up, there is another woman who is.
Yeah.
There's another woman who's ready to align herself with her own potential and really use your skills in your marketing. And this is ultimately what I teach inside the program, but really start to understand like what is the difference between the woman who's always going to say no to herself and and who's the woman who is saying yes for herself, right? Like what is she doing differently?
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you, Lois, so much for being here. Where can everyone find you if they want to check out more of your work?
So they can find me on Instagram at Spence_counseling_alliance. And then also my website, www.spencecounselingalliance.com.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.